I told him to get everything they see me.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You have any kind of introduction? Or?
Well,
It's on. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for coming down, everybody. If you're not, this is your first time in the bookstore. I think most of you have been here before, but we'd like to have events like this all the time. And we'd like to have people actually be involved in them, like you guys are tonight. So if you want to sign up on our email list at the counter, we have an email list, and we'll shoot you an email every so often just to tell you about the events going on here. But thanks for coming out tonight. And I'm going to introduce Kevin Smith, who's been a longtime activist here in town, and most of you know his work. Was a former producer for Alex Jones's program, and he's going to introduce Bob. So let's hear it for Kevin.
Okay, we're going to start the roll right here.
Kind of got to synchronize this a little bit with the internet stream, so bear with us for a couple seconds.
Okay, we're starting right now. 30 seconds.
We'd like to welcome everyone to Brave New Books. This is Brave New Bookstore. You can look us up on the web at bravenewbookstore.com. We're located at 1904 Guadalupe Drive, right in the heart of downtown Austin near UT. And I'm honored tonight to have been asked to introduce our speaker tonight, and that's the Lieutenant Colonel and Dr. Bob Bowman. And I'll give you a brief bio. It's got to be brief because if I did the whole thing, we'd be here all night. But, you know, we worry a lot of times. People, you know, the Mark Twain quotes about patriots, you know, and they're scarce and they're scorned and all that till it becomes easy, and then everybody wants to join you. And right now we're seeing a variation on that. They're not ready to get on our side, but they are willing to join us to subvert us. And we all saw it at the recent tea parties here in Austin and around the country. They've decided to steal all our good works and our good themes. And, you know, me and a group of people did a little ambush journalism on William Crystal a couple years ago. And it was just when the YouTube and the Google video phenomenon was coming out, and it was nothing new. Lots of people have done it and for over the years, but we had this new technology at our disposal. We weren't that smart. We just kind of fell into it. But we confronted William Crystal. We really dressed him down. And on those actions, a group in New York that came from the splintered 9/11 Truth Group started the group called We Are Change. And they went around and used those same techniques, and even to a higher degree in the Big Apple, the center of the world, and really let not only politicians but the people behind the scenes running things, let them have it. And so we saw Obama come on the scene, and his term was hope. It was always hope for this. And once you started seeing the effect of the We Are Change group, you saw change adopted by Obama. So can't beat him. We'll just join them and take their words. And then we had a thing called the 9/11 Commission report that came out that was, the Warren Commission Jr., or even probably a bigger lie. And it was roundly repudiated, and one of the very first actions against it was called the Tea Party. And Colonel Bowman was one of the original people. I remember the photos of him in his tri-cornered hat. And Bob, were you in Boston or Philadelphia?
Boston.
In Boston, so the real place for it. And it happened all across the country. So we threw the 9/11 Commission in the nearest body of water we could find. And then when Dr. Paul was convinced to run for president, you saw a lot of Ron Paul people were also 9/11 truthers. And, that was a good and a bad thing for him, but I think he dealt with it in a very good fashion. But we saw a Tea Party spring out of that because it was something we had in the 9/11 Truth movement. So they were roundly successful, and everybody loved it. And now we've seen the Glenn Becks and the Hannitys and the O'Reillys jump on these Tea Parties. And you go to them now, and there's still a neocon contingent out there that's stealing all of our lingo. And, boy, they really don't like it when the originators show up and try to steal it back. But so I wanted to talk about that we have to look to the patriots, and we'll always tell you, you don't need leaders. It's a leaderless revolution. They can't kill all of us, so we have to have many heads. But at the same time, we do need leaders. We need sages and statesmen out there and people that we can look to and say, well, this guy's been doing it for 30 plus years, straight, and I've done it for 10 years and I'm about burned out, and I don't, how can I keep going? How can I keep sacrificing my well-being and my livelihood to do the right thing? Well, Colonel Bowman's a classic example of doing the right thing, and our good friend Celly Castillo right now is about to go to federal prison, and this is the DEA agent whistleblower during Iran-Contra, and he did the right thing, and he passed up millions of dollars in laundered drug money. He could have been Oliver North. He could have been the same guy, but he did the right thing, and we've got to use these people as examples to us to not give up and not quit and keep going forward. And I can read you a little bit of this bio, and I will do that, but it's too lengthy. Everyone go to the Patriots, thepatriots.us, and you can get all the information on that, and Bob will surely plug that too. But Dr. Robert Bowman is president of the Institute of Space and Security Studies. He's executive vice president of the Millennium II Corporation and retired presiding archbishop of the United Catholic Church. He's the recipient of the Eisenhower Medal, the George F. Kennan Peace Prize, the President's Medal of Veterans for Peace, the Republic Aviation Air Power Award. Oh, Republic Aviation, that's a name from the past. The Society of American Military Engineers, ROTC Award of Merit twice, the Air Medal with 5 oak leaf clusters. So basically he was awarded the Air Medal 5 times, guys, and numerous other awards. Until July '82, he was the vice president of the Space Communications Company. Before that, Dr. Bowman was manager of the Advanced Space Programs at General Dynamics, responsible for communications spacecraft product line. Culminating in a 22-year Air Force career, in 1978, Colonel Bowman was director of Advanced Space Programs and Development of the Air Force Space Division. That's what we call Star Wars now. And I'll just let you guys go to the rest of this information, his multiple PhDs, the multiple universities he's taught at, and he can bring you up to date on that too. But, here's a guy that was doing something. He was probably caught up in the technology, Bob, and I'll let you address that. They compartmentalize you and you get caught up in the minutia. But when it became apparent to him that this was not a defensive shield necessarily as it was built, this was going to be aggressive and offensive, he left the reservation. He became a non-company man at that point by telling the truth and bucking the system. And I don't know how much before that Bob's patriotic streak was, but it surely came out then. And I'm going to relate some information to you that how I think about Bob. When we were trying to get momentum for 9/11 Truth, we thought, well, if we can convince enough people, a certain percentage of people, with the facts that we're going to win, and I have to reassess that belief now, because we've seen the people that could have used it to their advantage, and they chose not to. They chose to just wait their turn to get into power and then disregard all the facts and everything. But we had plenty of people like myself and people like Alex Jones that could give you some sizzle, but we needed steak. We needed PhDs. We needed doctors and military men to join the cause. And when Charlie Sheen sent an email to Alex's office, and then I talked to him the next day, and he outlined what he had planned, I thought, well, there's a guy out there. There's Stephen Jones. There's Webster Tarpley. There's Colonel Bob Bowman. These are people on a short list that have to be included in this, And so they gave us credibility. They gave us not just being loudmouth, conspiracy theorist types. They gave us credibility. And in my claim to fame, I guess if I have one, is that I hammered the C-SPAN people relentlessly. I was polite and I was firm, and then I left them with a pretty real threat on what we could do to their show on their call-in lines if they refused to come cover this thing. So they agreed to come to LA and cover the panel discussion that was done Sunday. And when they were filming it, I was literally pinching myself saying, there's no way they can ever air this. There's no way. And they held off for a little over a month, and when they finally did air it, I think 5 times in 4 days, and then a couple other times that we kind of lost track of later in the month, it was the most downloaded, the most uploaded, the most requested, the most viewed thing in C-SPAN history. And it really kind of put it into a level of academia, into the intelligentsia, where it wasn't just wild-eyed kooks anymore talking about these possibilities. Hell, it was on C-SPAN. We've got to give it its due and weigh these things. So I think it really took a lot of steam out of their fear-baiting and their warmongering, and they had to really pull their horns back in for a little while. So thank the panel that we had, thank Alex Jones, Charlie Sheen, and C-SPAN, and everybody that made that perfect storm of information come about. And I'll always remember that morning when we set the panel, and You know, we were up in one of the